You know how reliable it is.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. Okay. It still is not a good spot. The sun's on my head. I look like a... Wow! Okay. Hare Krishna. Live from Sridham Mayapur. Yeah. We moved our spot, but the sun is right there anyway.
She think today might have been better in our old spot because the sun was like up rather than facing you.
You know, the best spot is over here where you don't see the sun. Hold on, everyone. We're almost ready. You know what I mean? So we are, yes, so we're now going to continue. We're going to be reading a little bit from Vishwanath Cakravarti Thakur, his Madhurya Kadambini. You reading that in class or what? No? I have it on my phone. Just give me a second to bring it up.
You've connected your mic to the phone. Is that what you intended?
Yeah, because I don't have batteries for my other. Yeah, this is just going on and on. Okay, so we're reading about Asakti, and Vishwanath Cakravarti Thakur has elaborately described this. Asakti means attachment. This is your 25th broadcast. Wow. And I'm still broke. There was a man who was voted the greatest fiddle player in the world. On cover of Guitar magazine. And he wrote a letter and he said, does this mean I can pay my rent now? Now that I've been voted the greatest. After this, when Ruchi, taste, which has bhajan, hearing and chanting, and other devotional activities as its object of relish, reaches extreme depth and makes Krishna the object of that relish, that is called Asakti or attachment. At the stage of Asakti, the creeper of bhakti bears clusters of buds. These buds will in no time become flowers at the stage of bhava. Then fruits at the stage of prema. The statement that Ruchi has bhajan as the object and Asakti has the Lord as the object is a designation signifying proportionate quantity. Proportionate quantity. So what it's saying is, when you have more taste, then you become attached to Krishna. Like we like devotional service, right? You ever do service and it's just like you just really relish the service? Right? You hear a class, you do some service, and it's just like super sweet. But the attachment for Krishna may not be there, but the attachment for the services. So we would think philosophically that if I'm attached to service, it means I'm attached to Krishna, because Krishna's not different from the service. I'm attached to Bhagavatam, I'm attached to Krishna. But you may be attached to those things and not personally conscious of Krishna, or personally attached. So what Vishwanath Cakravarti Thakur is saying is when the taste hits a certain depth, it becomes attachment to Krishna personally, not just attachment to the service of Krishna. Like, let's say you meet the Queen of England and she says, can you help me carry my bags up the stairs? And you think, oh, this is a great opportunity. I'll carry my bag. I'll carry her bags up the stairs. So you relish the opportunity, but the relationship may not, and the attraction for her may not be developed. But just the fact that she's the Queen of England and you could do some service was relishable. So when that relish increases, then you become attached to the person, not just serving the person or just the fact that she's the queen, but actually attached to her personally. Right? So what we see, or if you analyze, maybe you haven't seen it, but if you analyze, as you go through each stage of devotional service, it increases in depth, and when it hits a certain depth, it officially becomes the next level. It's given another name. So it's actually just one thing, devotional service, but there are signposts, so to speak, of that the attachment and the depth of it is just getting stronger, and then they say, okay, now it's another category. It's like you're in a different league now because it's hit another point. So here's an explanation of this. It goes from taste to attraction to the person. Does that make sense? Everyone in Australia? Does that make sense to the Aussies also? Does anything make sense to the Aussies other than what? Beer and surfing? Does anything else make sense? Oh yeah, hot dogs. Right? I'm only joking. I like the Aussies. Actually, both Ruchi and Asakti have both components as objects. In other words, Krishna is the object. But by intensity, in taking bhajan as object, and greater intensity in taking the Lord as the object, Asakti becomes distinguishable from Ruchi. Isn't that interesting? Like you could have a great taste for chanting, and chanting is the object of your taste, not Krishna. And then when Krishna is in his name, but somehow our consciousness, our heart is more attached to the sound of Krishna than the person Krishna. Like we're making a distinction in some sense. Let me read that again. Less intensity in taking bhajan as the object, greater intensity taking the Lord as the object. So, give him a citation for disturbing the peace. So in Ruchi, you're more attached to the bhajan, the activity, and in Asakti, you're more attached to Krishna, the person. Asakti polishes the mirror of the heart to such a condition that a reflection of the Lord may suddenly be visible there. Before the stage of Asakti, the devotee, realizing that his mind has been overpowered by material objects and desires, after putting forth deliberate effort, withdraws his mind and fixes it on the Lord's form, qualities, and activities. In the stage of Asakti, however, absorption of the mind in the Lord is automatic without effort. The devotee, even at the stage of nistha, cannot discover how the mind sometimes withdraws from the Lord and fixes itself on material affairs. So this attachment is so strong that naturally the mind goes to Krishna. Also, at the stage of Asakti, you start to feel strong inclinations towards your relationship. You don't know exactly what's going on in your relationship, but you'll feel it starts to become more obvious that you have a certain relationship. You'll feel it. Like sometimes devotees wonder, am I supposed to cultivate a certain relationship? But it'll come naturally, you'll feel it. You'll feel attraction for a certain relationship. You won't be 100% certain, but you'll feel attraction. Because now the personal relationship is becoming stronger. So a lot of times, talking here about attachment of the mind. This is a sign of Asakti. A lot of times devotees talk about how to think of Krishna, especially think of Krishna when I'm chanting. And so sometimes it becomes very artificial, right? You're trying to think of Krishna, but naturally you're not. Or it really becomes artificial if you're trying to think of Krishna's pastimes, like kind of in an unnatural way. So when Prabhupada was asked about meditating on Krishna's pastimes when we chant, he said it's kind of artificial. So that doesn't sound maybe like the answer you expected. This almost sounds like he's saying, don't try to think of the pastimes when you chant, doesn't it? Prabhupada, should we think of the pastimes when we chant? Well, it's artificial. That's almost like saying, Prabhupada, should I get up in the morning? You wouldn't think he would say, well, it's artificial. Stay in bed. Would you? Right? So what did Prabhupada mean? He meant that in these higher stages, it's described here, in the stage of Asakti, you naturally think of Krishna. It's just natural, automatic, normal. You don't have to try. So when he's saying artificial, it's kind of like a boy meets a girl, and the boy asks the mother, should I love her? Because she's going to be my wife. And the mother will say, just by her serving you and you serving her, the love will develop. You don't have to worry. That's the idea. So you can't force it, right? You can try. Naturally, if you hear about Krishna's pastimes, you'll tend to think about those pastimes when you chant. Right? You have that experience? You just didn't come to your mind. But the point Prabhupada's making is on the higher levels of bhakti, those pastimes come to your mind naturally. So we think of what we're most attached to, right? When you get hungry, what do you think about? What you like to eat, right? You don't think about what you don't like to eat. And if you haven't eaten it for a long time, you think about it a lot, right? Is there something you haven't eaten for a while? Think of something you haven't eaten for a while that you really like. Is it hard to think about it? Think about something you don't like. Is it hard to think about it? It's harder, isn't it? Like meditate on what you don't like. It's much harder to think about it. Think about a preparation that was something you ate that was really horrible. It's hard to think about it. Hare Krishna. Maybe somebody in Mayapur can build a soundproof box we can put all the water pumps in, and we won't hear them. Wouldn't that be a great service? So the mind naturally goes to what it's most attached to. So that's why he's saying here, the stage of attachment, it just makes sense. It's an obvious stage at which you think of Krishna naturally, because you're attached. So, how do I think of Krishna more during japa? The ultimate answer is become attached to him. And there may be interim answers of how you can practice it. Read more Krishna books. Be more. Don't focus on your life. So many things that we teach. But those are the things you do when you don't have the attachment. right? But once you have it, it's automatic. Like my father, he went into business, and I said, how did you learn to do business? He said, I didn't, I just did it. It was like natural, you know? He just knew how to do it. So I'm sure you all know people who are good at something naturally, and they don't really have to learn it. I was just actually listening to something about nature and nurture. And this speaker was saying, there's some things you can't learn if it's not your nature. It's just, this is how you are. So our nature is to be Krishna conscious. So when you get that nature up to the point of Asakti, then that's when you naturally think of Krishna. Because why wouldn't you think of Krishna if you're attached to him? Does that make sense? I mean, he's more attractive than anybody else. So why wouldn't you think of him if you become attached to him? We have a question from Abhay Nimai. Does a person at the level of Baba fall down? Rarely, 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 rarely. But it can happen. So be careful. So you know you have the example, Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj, he didn't really fall down. He just got deviated for a while. It wasn't like he became like a Jamil and ran off with a woman. He just kind of slowed down on his sadhana and just put his attention on the deer. But the point is that in the stage of bhava, there's still a little contamination. So because there's a little, it's like you have a little disease left in you, it can come up, but generally it won't. But from prema, you can't fall, which makes life complicated when you say that we fell from the spiritual world, because you can't fall from prema. But that's another discussion for those who like controversy. Well, that's the discussion you have when everybody's falling asleep. Wake them up. Anytime people are falling asleep, say something controversial and that'll work. But you don't fall from prema, you can't fall from bhava or any lower stage, but it's unlikely you will after coming that far. If you make an offense to a Vaishnava, that's the best way to fall down. So even from the stage of bhava, if you make an offense, you could fall down. If you listen to Mayavad philosophy, you could fall down. Those are like the two best ways to fall down. Not that you should test them out, but that's generally when a higher devotee falls down, it's usually, at least in ISKCON, from offenses. Or some way minimizing Prabhupada. Or leaving Prabhupada and listening to somebody else, then minimizing Prabhupada. Or minimizing one's guru. It's not a good idea. Does that make sense? Yes.
You mentioned that at this stage, that relationship that we have in the spiritual world starts to become more natural and apparent. So does that relationship also appear in earlier stages but less apparent, or is it just at this stage?
Everything is, at the stage of ruchi, even at the stage of nishta, it might, because it depends how advanced you were in your last life. But generally, see, I think it was the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada said you could practice Raganuga Bhakti, which usually happens nishta, ruchi, asakti, that level. You can practice it in bhajana kriya. And so what did he mean? He means that you're very advanced in your last life. So it's like you were actually on a higher level. So now you're coming and starting the process. You just got initiated, but your inclination for Raganuga Bhakti in your relationship, it might be manifesting very strongly. I've seen that with some people who don't even have sadhana. They have very strong attachment to Krishna in a particular way. So that could be there. But so you can't say one way or the other, but generally it's going to be more on the stage of nishta or ruchi where you'll start to have some inclination. And here it's much stronger because the stage of bhava, your relationship with Krishna is revealed. So Asakti is the stage before it's being revealed, so the inclination is naturally starting to be there. Now, if you want to make it more complicated, Vishwanath Cakravarti Thakur says something, and now I'll confuse you all. He says that we generally understand our relationship with Krishna is there and it's awakened. But Vishwanath Cakravarti Thakur says your relationship could change by association. So let's say you're a cowherd boy, that's your position, but you associate with Vaishnava who's in another rasa. And by associating, hearing from them, you may develop the desire. Anyway, that's what he says. I don't know if you've heard that before, but it's in a purport to a verse in the Nectar of Devotion, he says that. Isn't that interesting? And then I always felt like I was a cowherd boy, and one of my disciples said they had, I don't know, just the other day. I don't have a memory that goes back more than 3 minutes, but one of my disciples, which could be useful sometimes, especially when people say nasty things to you and you forget. It's quite useful. So, senility has its benefits. So he said, they had some dream or this or that about being a cowherd boy. And I always think about Krishna the cowherd boy. So I said, oh yeah, that's because you're hanging out with me. You want to be a cowherd boy. So it was based on that verse. I was just joking, but based on that verse by association. But I think that simplifies it too much, and there are many factors to be considered. But
that would mean that we are speaking about our eternal form, then our eternal form is not eternal if it can jump from...
Well, because Prabhupada said the spiritual life is not, it's dynamic, so it could, if you want to evolve, you can. So maybe that is, quote unquote, your eternal relationship, but by the mercy of higher Vaishnavas, you could change it, because it's dynamic. It generally wouldn't, but also because Lord Chaitanya has come, so he's giving us love of Krishna in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. So we wouldn't have had that if we weren't here in Kali Yuga. So that's also different. Maybe our eternal relationship, and some people say, well, if you get that mercy, that means that is your eternal relationship. You are in the right sampradaya. So, and if your guru is in a particular rasa and he gives that to you, you could say that's because you're in that rasa and therefore that's your guru. This discussion is multifaceted, and my experience with this discussion is that you could say many things, and all being right and all being different. And based on what Prabhupada said, that all these things aren't that important, but that it will be revealed. And whatever is revealed is perfect. So you don't have to worry, You might think, I'm really attracted to Madhurya Rasa, and you might think, I hope I'm in that rasa, because if I'm not, I'm going to kill myself. So that's a material way of looking at it. It's not. And devotees say, well, if I'm in the stage of bhajan, kriya, or nartha nivritti, and I'm attracted to a particular rasa, because by material nature I have that attraction, does that indicate my spiritual nature? And the answer is no. Your spiritual purity will indicate your spiritual nature, but your material nature won't indicate your spiritual rasa. When I was young, all the friends on my street, we used to wrestle. That's what we did. We used to wrestle, and we had, on our front lawn, we'd go down and we'd roll down the hill. And we just like to wrestle. And I like cows, and so that means I must be a cowherd boy, because I like cows and I like to wrestle. Right? Is that true? And I've had so many bad relationships with women, I'd never want to be a woman. So definitely I'm a cowherd boy. So some people think like that. They think, materially they make these conclusions based on their life, that this is what their rasa is, and it has nothing to do with that. So Prabhupada said it'll be revealed. By Nimai has more, yes.
What about Chaitanya Prabhu? What's our relation
What's our relationship with him? Our relationship with him is servant, because he's coming as a devotee.
In spiritual life, how we
Always, yeah. It'll always be a servant. So our relationship with Krishna will be in one of the 5 rasas. With Mahaprabhu, it'll always be a servant, because he's not taking the position of Krishna. And that's why in some of the Leelas with Lord Chaitanya, if anyone would try to relate with him any other way, he wouldn't allow that. So it's a very pure relationship with Lord Chaitanya. What's your idea?
Jiva come back in spiritual life and they have some rasa with Krishna and they have
Yeah, simultaneously. Yeah. Yeah, you can have many spiritual forms in different places. You can have more than 2. You could have a form in this, in Vrindavan. You could have a form in Navadvip. You could even have a form in Vaikuntha or Ayodhya or somewhere, all at the same time. Because just as Krishna expands in our pure state, we can expand. Krishna fulfills that desire. One devotee said you could have 1,728 forms or something. I've never heard that. I've heard you could have 2, you could have 3, but whatever the number, you can definitely be in different places to fulfill your desire. Because Krishna, he's happy to fulfill your desire. So that's nice to know, isn't it? There's someone that can fulfill your deepest desire. Yes? So the point is you don't have to worry. Like whatever you want spiritually, you will get. Is that okay? Yeah. It'll be fulfilled. Whatever you want materially may not be fulfilled. And that's where devotees get frustrated. And they sometimes get upset with Krishna. Why you're not giving me this? Why you're not giving me a husband? Then they get married and they get upset. Why'd you give me such a bad husband? Isn't it? So it's like, and Krishna's like, well, what can I do? I can never satisfy you materially. But spiritually, he can satisfy. Whatever you want spiritually, he'll satisfy.
What does that mean?
What is in your heart of hearts, your pure spiritual desire?
And it will be satisfied in due course of time, like after
Yeah, when you're pure.
20 lifetimes or 100 or million?
Maybe this lifetime, maybe tomorrow. It will depend on your purity and your desire and your practice. When you're ready for it, when you deserve it, you'll get it. But you see that in your own life. Sometimes Krishna fulfills your desire for service, or gives you some realization to help you with a problem, or satisfies you in some way. Right? So, we say he's satisfying everyone's desire. And then all the women who aren't married are thinking, wait a minute, he's satisfying everyone's desire, why I'm not married? And all the people who are poor are thinking, wait a minute, I don't have a lot of money. And all the devotees who aren't as advanced as they want to be, they think, wait a minute, I'm not as Krishna conscious as I want to be. What does it mean Krishna's fulfilling everyone's desire? And the Prabhupada said, first deserve, then desire. He's fulfilling it when you're ready for it. So whenever it's not fulfilled, then actually you think, I'm not ready, and how I can become more ready. Just like so many people, they say, I want to have a partner who has all these qualities. And so then they have to think, okay, if you want someone with those qualities, then you have to become qualified to be a partner for that person. You can't just think you can be the way you are and attract someone who is perfect. You have to be better, right? I want a partner like this. Well, do you deserve that? I want to be this Krishna conscious. Do you deserve that? You have to deserve it. Become qualified for it. I want to make a lot of money. Well, do you know how to spend it? Do you know how to keep it? Right? Does that make sense? Yes.
Is that how Krishna's mercy also works? That principle of first
Yeah, yeah. It's like Krishna has unlimited mercy, and he's just giving it out according to what we can digest. That's all. It's just a to become more digestible.
Not digestible, to digest.
I think one of the ways you can look at it is whatever he gives you, digest it. Then he'll give you more. Sometimes we don't digest it well. Maybe he gives you mercy, you do something really well, and then you become proud. Then Krishna thinks, well, look what happened. I gave you mercy so you could do some service, and